There's that scene where he says, "You cheated me. I had a destiny. I was supposed to die in the field with honor, and you cheated me out of it." And he goes, "This was not supposed to happen to me. I had a destiny." He said, "I was supposed to be Lieutenant Dan Taylor." And then Forrest Gump hits him back with a very simple answer. He goes, "You're still Lieutenant Dan." And on the surface, that seems like a really sort of simple response said by a very simple man, like, "You're still Lieutenant Dan." And Forrest is like not intelligent enough to grasp the fact that, he's wrestling with this ambiguous concept of destiny. But in actual fact, he said exactly what he needed at the time. Like, your value isn't in the fact that you don't have legs. It's the fact, like, you're still the same person that you were, and you can move past this. He goes, so even without legs, it's like, it can be played as like a really dumb retort and a lack of understanding. But I think there's a deeper meaning there, that Forrest truly sees who he is as a person, because his mother placed that value in him, or he had that value of being kind and seeing people's nature as opposed to what they can do. So I think that he places that value more on who he is and who he spends time with and what he loves about people. And I think Lieutenant Dan has one of the best arcs from a character in this story, because he grows immensely from knowing Forrest. But I think another quote that sort of Forrest is using very simple responses to sort of fix Lieutenant Dan's situation is sort of during the time when they're spending the celebration and the holidays with each other in New York. Dan says to Forrest Gump, "Have you found Jesus yet, Gump?" And then Forrest Gump replies with, "I didn't know I was supposed to be looking for him." And that's like, it's so simple. And you think, oh, he doesn't really understand the question. But really, like, Forrest has always had a relationship with God and Jesus. Like, he's a very faithful man. And his mother was too. So he's like, I'm not looking for Jesus because, like, I know where Jesus is. I have a relationship with him all the time, because he's very sure in the fact, because he says later on in that same conversation, "I'm going to heaven, Lieutenant Dan." And then Lieutenant Dan says back to him, "Well, before you go there, get down to the store and get us another bottle of and he's just like, "Yes, sir." Yeah. And he goes, and because he's in that old habit, that he's lieutenant. But I think that's another example of the fact that Forrest is exactly what Lieutenant Dan needed in that point. He's almost like a grounding point and anchor to return Dan to his core values within himself and not worry about the external that is impressing its destiny, if you will, onto him. Like, he had this expectation of what his life was going to be. And Dan obviously isn't going to live up to that, but Forrest was a good grounding tool to sort of help him realize what he could become now.